Hello, everyone. I'm Clark Cahill, Events Manager with the South China Morning Post. Thank you all for being here with us for the first segment in our Redefining Hong Kong series for the 2020 calendar year, and also the first time the RHK series has been presented in a virtual format. The first topic for this year, as you all know, will focus on virtual banking. Is it a dawn of a new era for Hong Kong financial services? Before we ask our panelists this question and more, we need to give a big thank you to our Redefining Hong Kong series sponsor, EY. And we'd also like to show our viewers a quick video segment from EY now before we dive into the discussion.
This time of change allows us to look ahead through a new lens. A chance to reframe the future, to uncover unseen opportunities, for organizations to ask new and different questions and create unexpected answers. How can you transform at speed to build value that lasts? Is your transformation plan radical enough to thrive? Has this moment changed customer expectations forever? How can technology help you reimagine your working world? Redefining how we live, work, learn, and consume. Rethinking the role of enterprise. So ask yourself, are you reframing your future? Or is the future reframing you? Transforming to create long-term value for business, people, and society as a whole. Building an even better working world. Find out how we can help you with end-to-end transformation to uncover opportunities now, next, and beyond.
All right, our panelists for this discussion are Dennis Gouven, who's the Chief Executive Officer with Mox Bank, Roxanne Su, who's Chief Executive Officer with ZA Bank, and Adrian Se, who's Chief Executive with WeLab Bank. The conversation will be moderated by Enoch Yu, who's the Chief Reporter for Business with the South China Morning Post. Before I pass things over to Enoch, I just want to make sure our audience is aware that we encourage you to submit questions to our panelists throughout the course of the session. You can do so by using the Q&A box in the bottom right corner of your screen. Submit your question at any point throughout the discussion, and we'll do our best to get your question over to the panelists in the amount of time we have. We'll be reserving the last 10 to 15 minutes or so for those questions. So without further ado, I will pass things over to Enoch to dive into the discussion.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to join this panel. Virtual bank is the big thing this year because we have 8 new virtual bank entering into the market. That's the biggest number ever happened in Hong Kong. And what is a virtual bank? Virtual bank basically is a bank that do not have any branch network, but they operate purely online. That is an important part of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to promote fintech and also bring in a revolution to the Hong Kong banking sector. So I think we are very timely to talk about this topic. So I would like all of our panelists to introduce about your bank. Maybe I start with alphabetical order of your first name. So Adrian, can you talk about your bank?
Sure, thank you. This is Adrian C. I'm representing WeLab Bank, a homegrown bank that has combined the power of technology and power of people. So our vision is to help our customers to take control of the financial journey and while having fun while they're growing their money. So we've launched for a couple of months and we have been known and served Hong Kong customers for a lot longer because behind our bank is actually our WeLab group, which has been successful in serving and redefining financial services in Hong Kong, China, and Indonesia. So we are glad that, with WeLab Bank, we can also provide a wider scope of services to the Hong Kong customers. Today with WeLab Bank, we have already got a numberless debit card, and we also have offer customer access to manage to grow the money digitally and physically. So we have a WeLab debit card, and we also try to create some unique banking experience and that the customers can access 24/7. We launched our bank during the middle or the last round of the COVID-19 outbreak, but it doesn't stop us. We actually, the fact that we have a virtual card, once the customers open the WeLab bank account, enable them to do shopping online, together with trying our other creative deposit idea like the Gold Save, a new term deposit product that enable community and social ID. I will talk a little bit more later about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Dennis, your turn. Can you introduce what is Mox Bank?
Sure. Thank you, Enoch. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Mox Bank is backed by Standard Chartered, Hong Kong Telecom, PCCW Group, and Trip.com. We revealed our brand in Hong Kong, as you know, in March. And then, we did a lot of, tests, with our customers, internal and external. And just, 2 weeks ago, 22nd of September, we launched the bank, to everyone in Hong Kong. As I said, Mox Bank is backed by, Standard Chartered Group and also, PCCW Group and Hong Kong Telecom. We are building, services, together, to help, customers in Hong Kong and to solve, the pain points. The main idea of Mox Bank, we are building a new operating model in banking, to help, customers, in a different way.
So, Roxanne, your bank is the first virtual bank in Hong Kong. Can you introduce a bit about the background?
Sure. First, thanks to EY and SCMP for having us, and also hello to all the participants. ZA Bank is majority owned by Zhong'an Online, which is the first insurtech and the only insurtech in mainland China, which now already have over 400 million users. As a pioneer in Hong Kong's fintech space, we believe technology can make banking services more interactive, more convenient, and safer. We strive to leverage our parents, Zhong'an's rich experience in technological innovation and in deep insights for big data and artificial intelligence, such that we can design scenario-based services with an aim to create a truly 24/7 banking experience for our users. We do not operate any physical branches, which is part of our license condition. With a simpler business model, as Dan said, we offer a more competitive cost structure, which help to promote financial inclusion through letting more people accessing price-friendly banking products and services. And our approach is simple. We have a community-driven approach where we encourage users to directly contribute to our product development and design process together, guiding ZA Bank to design and develop innovative products and services that will be better serve the needs of Hong Kong users. So far, we've gained the trust of our users with our innovative products and satisfying banking services. In less than 100 days since ZA Bank full launch back in March 24th, we've crossed the 2.4 billion total deposit line per our interim disclosure. And I think as of today, we've crossed more than 190,000 users. And I think in a peak moment, peak hour, I can say, we have a new customer every 10 seconds. So I think the market is gaining trust, but then all 8 of us would need to continue our effort to embrace technology for the banking community.
That sounds all very exciting, but we know Hong Kong actually is a very crowded banking industry. We have 155 traditional banks to serving a population of 7.5 million, actually. So how do you think the virtual bank, can really compete with the traditional lenders? Maybe I would like to have the direction in a different way. So Roxanne, can you share your view?
Sure. I think competing is one word. Collaborating and accelerating fintech is the way we're looking at us, virtual banks, and the traditional banks, because we are no different from any other banks. We are a full licensed bank in Hong Kong. And one of the aim that we have is to have the three objectives of HKMA. First, to promote fintech and innovation. Secondly, is, as we said earlier, financial inclusion. That's one key objective. And lastly, a combination of the first two is the product of offering a new customer experience. So this is what driving us for ZA Bank and try to make a difference. And I think a very good example of key pain points to hit in traditional bank is queuing up for account opening. I mean, everyone only opens accounts once, but that experience can trigger us a lot. So I mean, imagine, I think all 8 of us are offering remote onboarding, account opening, whereby we're changing customer behavior such that banking services are available to all anytime, rather than just the business operating hours of physical branches. So I think, yes, we're competing in a way. We're arousing new ideas and thinking out of the box. I mean, we're all regulated by HKMA, same SPMs, same guidelines, same statutory requirements. But I think we're doing things differently.
So, Dennis, we know Standard Chartered Bank has done a lot of virtual bank in Africa and has been very successful. So, will you also adopt some of this strategy to how you to compete with traditional lenders?
Thank you, Enoch. I think again, competition is one thing, but especially healthy competition is really good, for the customers, in any markets in the world. So that's why, what I believe, especially in Hong Kong right now, when we look at all the new banks, and I really want to define this area. Now, I don't want to call it virtual banks or traditional banks. I think there are 8 new banks in the market with their licenses. What we are doing, we are doing some things quite different than the bigger organizations. Instead of calling them traditional banks. When we look at the bigger organizations, it can be in banking or it can be any other industry. They operate quite differently. Unfortunately, after many years and years, their technology usage is different, customer approach is different, their speed is different. I think again the most important thing is when we look at all the new banks in Hong Kong right now, we are bringing new operating models end to end. And right now, I think for the first time in Hong Kong, we can talk about end to end digital services instead of digital channels. I think this is one of the most important points that we have to understand. There are a lot of big organizations, they are bringing the channels, but what we did and what we are serving, how we are serving in Hong Kong, we are not serving with our channels. We are serving with our end-to-end services. Like Roxanne shared, we can onboard the customers in a couple of minutes easily, and the experience is totally different. I'm going to give one example from our side, but we can apply this example to all these the new banks, and I know them as well. So for example, when I look at the App Store right now, I can see 4.8 stars for Mox Bank, and to be honest, with more than 1,300 comments. There are some positive, negative, but more than 1,300 comments. So this is something it's really important in banking industry in Hong Kong or in different markets. You can read, it's really difficult to see 4.8 stars out of 5, right? So this is also showing that customers in Hong Kong, they want to consume, and they want to consume the banks and bank and money quite differently. What I believe that in Hong Kong, we are doing something quite pioneering. And back to your question, very quickly. What we are building in Hong Kong and other markets, is Standard Chartered. I think we are exchanging knowledge and experience. What I believe that we are going to use this in different markets. But right now, for Mox, our laser focus is totally Hong Kong, and we want to create new services and products in Hong Kong.
Thank you. And Adrian, can you share your view on how WeLab Bank are going to compete with the traditional lender?
Sure. I think, I agree with what Roxanne and Dan is saying. The purpose of virtual bank is to provide something simple, instant, intuitive banking experience to the customers in Hong Kong. But on top of that, Wheeler Bank also tried to provide some social elements and also fun into the offering that we do. For example, if we say one of our term deposit product, from when we actually think about the product concept, we interview a lot of the customers to understand the current pain points with the traditional banks term deposit, is that they always need to put the money aside until the end of the term. If they have any needs for the liquidity, if they pull out the money, they're subject to penalty and they lose the interest. So with the Go Safe deposit product that we have, we try to remove those pain points. We allow the customers to pull out the money, but the interest will be calculated on a pro rata basis. And the other thing is, it's like we use a symbol of a red minibus, which is a very Hong Kong icon, where customers can get onto the minibus or ask their friends to join. The more people they join, the higher the interest rate is. There's a bit of a gamification and also fun elements in it. So these are things that we try to use technology to bring a new banking experience to the customers. These are things that, without the technology or traditional bank, it's very difficult to replicate.
Thank you very much. I think then the next question is how the 8 virtual bank are you going to compete among yourself? Because it seems you all offer very convenient service, round-the-clock service, and very quick account opening. So how are you going to do to differentiate yourself from your peer? Can you share your view? Maybe I want Dennis to start.
Sure. I think, again, competing, it's too early to say something like this, because I think the new banks, we have, started, very recently, right? All the, virtual banks or all the new banks, in Hong Kong. And what I believe that, this is going to be a marathon instead of a, sprint, and we have to, look at and focus on the right, the superior, customer experience, better products and better services. But of course, from my angle, so we are going to differentiate, with our technology, because technology means, time to market and speed. I'm not only talking about the technology itself. So honestly, when I look at, all the new banks plus, the existing banks, we are going to be, much faster and more flexible, on the product side, that we can bring, new things, to this market. This doesn't mean that, the existing banks, cannot. But honestly, I believe that, for example, Mox Bank, we are end-to-end, agile, and, we can deliver, totally different, in this market. The second thing is, I think we have to understand the value of, partnership in this market, and how we do the, partnerships in Hong Kong. It's quite different than, the traditional businesses. We have, 2 JV partners, and our JV partners right now, we are working very closely, to change the market. And as you know, I think there are a lot of questions around, the new banks, they don't have the branches, etc. But our JV partners, they are bringing us, different, distribution channels. Some of them are digital, some of them are physical. I think this is going to be one of the most important differentiators, for Mox Bank, to use, different, distribution channels to reach the customers. Other than that, when I look at the one of the other thing is, and I really want to highlight this, why? Because everybody in banking industry, we are talking about technology, new services, new trends, open banking. We can discuss all these things, but I think we have to talk about the talent. How we are going to differentiate? I think we are going to differentiate with our talents, because how we are building these new banks and how we are getting talents, it's quite different, and how we position them in our organizations is totally different. I think this will impact the market very positively, and I believe that this is going to be one of the most important differentiators for the new banks.
Thank you very much. So, Roxanne, your bank is the first virtual bank in Hong Kong. You have operated for about 8 months already. Can you share some of your view how you, how you make yourself different from other bank?
I think, as Dennis said, which is very truthfully, technology is one, talent is one. And I think technology, give you a quick example again on account opening. I think all of us have remote onboarding. And one way to look at technology is technology allows us to do things much faster and more convenient and almost anytime, anywhere. And the fastest account opening time we have so far, which is technology driven, is 2 minutes and 8 seconds, which means within that 2 minutes plus, you have nothing to an operational account where you can do deposits, do payments, and whatnot. So that's one key thing that differentiates the virtual banks. I mean, all 8 of us have the same policy objectives. That's one key thing. But then, as Dennis said, I mean, the shareholder background, the talent development, those are the key things that differentiate the virtual banks with traditional banks. I think, giving a very realistic example, the people mix of, at least for my bank, I have around 200 people right now, half of which are IT. So you can see how much resources we're putting into IT development. And most of the IT colleagues that we have, we're actually embracing technology talents from mainland China. That's one of the key things we're learning from others. But not having said that, we're not just employing mainland Chinese talents, we're also grooming our own. I think HKMA has a very good talent program that was launched in September, trying to also enhance our own Hong Kong residents to be more technology savvy and then banking experienced. I think that's the key mix of people that we're looking for. We need banking experts that embraces technology, and vice versa. Because a lot of talents, they might have one side of the formula, but not a combined mix of the formula. So that's a marathon. Definitely not a one-off uphill battle. But then it's an ongoing effort at which I think the virtual banks ourselves are building up. And from a product perspective, we're not offering super new product per se, but then we're offering new features for the traditional banking products. I mean, for the time being, I think we're all operating with doing deposits, doing payment, doing loans, and also with cards. I think my 2 other peers have the respective debit cards. Payment is a key thing, so that will be something that we're all striving. And then the next phase we'll be offering will be I&I, insurance and investment. Those are also key needs from the community-driven approach, whereby we hear our users saying, I mean, on top of the minimum viable products, what's next? So those will be the items that we're striving to. I wouldn't say, again, not competing, but then we're embracing technology to make banking service even more approachable and more convenient for everybody.
Thank you. And Adrian, can you also share your view how you make your bank different from the others?
Sure. I think on the competition note you mentioned earlier, I agree with Dennis and Roxanne that Hong Kong has a robust banking system. So it's not a winner takes all situation. So there are a lot of opportunities in the market. But I think for Wheeler Bank to differentiate ourselves, we need to play on 3 areas. One, we need to find a segment that, we want a target segment, we can serve them well. Secondly, we need to play on our core competencies. Thirdly is, on the way that we serve them. Again, we need to embrace technology and serve them in a very technical, innovative way. So on target segment, I think the fact that we are a Hong Kong homegrown virtual banks, we understand the customer needs, we understand the pain point, and we try to find ways to remove them, as I mentioned earlier. In terms of our key competence, I think from day one, when Wheeler Group was founded, it's 100% online fintech model. So we are very good with using technology and also big data analysis to understand the customer's behavior. And therefore, we can come up with a more personalized product to suit their needs. And lastly, in the innovative way, I think I mentioned earlier on the GoSafe product. This is something that we have not seen in the market, with a social and also a fund deposit product that we can adjust the number of people who participated in one go, and also we can adjust the interest rate quite easily. These are things that we also try to shorten the product push cycle, and also the quicker way to turn around to serve our customers better.
Thank you. And we note that for you to be a virtual bank, actually you also get a full banking license. That means you can do everything like the traditional bank. But I understand there's also some restriction that as a virtual bank, I know you can't have a physical branch network. So maybe you can share with our audience, like what are the regulations applied on the virtual bank, and what does that mean to your business strategy and also for the customer as a whole? Maybe Roxanne, can you share your view first?
Sure. I think the key differential between a full licensed bank, traditional full licensed bank, and the virtual banking license is twofold. One is virtual banks cannot have physical branches. So that's actually, in a way, becomes our competitive advantage, because when you look at traditional retail/commercial banks, the branch network takes up about half of the headcounts. And on top, you also have operating expenses for the rental and maintenance. So virtual banks, we don't have those. I think that translates into the more competitive pricing that Adrian mentioned. We are all offering current account, saving accounts rates that are much higher than the traditional banking world. And that's not a pricing wall. I think I would iterate that right now. I mean, in a way, we're returning what we can save from our business model to our users. So that's one thing. I think traditionally, or among the traditional bank, current accounts rates is around 0.001%. We're offering around 1%. So this sounds big, because when we first thought about the level, it's like 1,000 times. But then it's not a marketing thing. Rather, it's how we're striving or using technology to bring a better return to the users. Second restrictions is on the what we can offer our banking services. Right now, it's only Hong Kong residents, which is a fair control, because we want to make sure we can serve our own target market, which is everybody in Hong Kong first. And then, hopefully, I think that's also another goal that we all have. We can expand our coverage to non-Hong Kong residents, which is already being offered by traditional banks in Hong Kong. So the two restrictions are here. One is to advantage. The other one is we have to prove ourselves that we're a viable business model. Then I'm sure our regulators would open up sooner or later.
Thank you very much. So Dennis, can you share your view?
I think Roxanne summarized the restrictions, and to be honest, I have nothing to add there. But there's one thing I can share. It's related with my experience, and this is something super important for the new players in the market. Our experience with our regulator and regulatory body, I think it was really good. To be honest, we have seen a really good journey, and we discuss everything. And what I believe that when I compare Hong Kong and many other markets, I'm talking about not only Asia, I'm talking about Europe, US, etc. I think our regulator here, they open a lot of doors for us to explore new products, services, platforms, or new way of doing businesses. I think this is the most important thing. Restrictions, yes, one is advantage, like Roxanne said. The second one, I believe that that will be flexible in the near future. But on the other hand, what I believe Hong Kong right now, it's pioneering in terms of regulatory environment. Plus, the regulatory environment is giving us the right opportunities to do and to create some new things in this market.
Thank you. So Adrian, do you have anything to add on this aspect?
Yeah, I just want to say, with the single channel focus actually allow us to focusing on, how to deliver superior experience to the customers, because then we don't need to be distracted on branches and managing all the staff. And as I mentioned, the fact that we have a full banking license, so all the customers have the peace of mind. We are governed by the same regulator. We're subject to the same compliance requirement on liquidity, on technology, on data security. That actually help us to give people the peace of mind, and the customers also know that they're being protected by the deposit protection scheme. So these are all the different things that help us to give the customers the peace of mind. But on top of that, the fact that we use a digital channel, a lot of the data comes through very quickly, so we can observe the customers' data, and we also be able to adjust the kind of reaction or the behavior of the customers to give a more personalized experience to them. Thank you.
I would like to do a follow-up on this aspect. As you mentioned that as a virtual bank, you can only focus to do Hong Kong customer. Does it mean it need to be a Hong Kong ID card holder, or if some Hong Kong guests who are live overseas, can they open an account? So, Robson, can you have a bit elaboration on that?
Sure. I think Hong Kong residents in my bank, we define whoever that has a Hong Kong ID. So it doesn't really restrict whether you're a permanent resident or not. So that's one thing that we try to promote financial inclusion. And as long as you have a mobile number, a residential address, you're qualified to be our customer. So that's I think the way we define Hong Kong residents. But then the reason why I say we want to expand that coverage is we also have other residents in Hong Kong who doesn't have Hong Kong ID. So that would be the next frontier that all of us are striving for. But first, of course, we make sure we satisfy all the requirements and make sure that we're a proven business banking model that can serve all the Hong Kong ID holders first. That's where we are right now.
And another major question I always come across some people ask is, how about my privacy issue? Because we know, as you mentioned earlier, yes, if you use a virtual bank, you need to give a lot of information and data to the bank. So I want to ask a question, whether it's safe?
I think as I said earlier, safety is one key thing, especially in the virtual banking world, whereby the idea is new. Everything that you can't see is intangible in a way. So first, I think twofold. One is we fully comply with our regulatory requirement in terms of cybersecurity and technology safety. Secondly, all the customer data in ZA Bank are located in Hong Kong. So everything is as if we're operating like other full licensed bank. But I think one key thing is, we have a very strong focus on the security and also the access control. I think that's one thing, because everybody's mobile phone technically is a branch to us. So we have to make sure our technology level is actually definitely at par or even stronger than traditional banks.
Thank you. So, Dennis, do you have anything you want to add about this privacy security issue?
I think the most important thing is the customer data. I think it's really important for any bank in the world. It's same for us. We are following the compulsory requirement, also the regulatory requirement very closely. What I can say, Mox Bank is compliant with all these things in Hong Kong. Plus, what I believe, I think we need to look at this from customer angle a bit, not only from technology angle, because we are giving all technology, our apps, tokenized apps. We are monitoring everything 24/7 automatically, plus manually. We are doing a lot of different things to ensure that the customer data and the privacy, everything is safe, right? But other than that, of course, the new banks are quite new to the market. And sometimes for example we open the bank 22nd, and almost every day we gain more than 1,000 customers every day. Okay, so they are joining every day 1,000 customers. I think this is showing a lot of interest, also the confidence in the market. But sometimes we see some different behaviors, like people they want to check, for example, they call the contact center that what is this service, they want to understand a bit more. And this is also very normal in this market, because this is quite new. We are going to communicate all together. We are going to communicate a bit more what is the definition of these new banks, etc. I think, and then it will be quite different. But when I look at the market right now, I think people they believe that the new banks are secure, and also I think confidence level is quite strong.
Thank you very much. I think it's about time to let our audience to ask some questions. So I would like to pass the time back to Claire.
Thanks, Enoch. Yeah, we've got a ton of questions coming in from the audience. Thank you guys for all these questions that are pouring in. So we'd like to dive into those and get as much time as we can to get these over to you guys. So the first question here, this comes from Rushab Kenya. The virtual banks rely somewhat on KYC done by originating accounts through which accounts are funded, e.g. through electronic direct debit. If incumbent banks block or are otherwise reluctant to support virtual banks, what strategies can virtual banks use? Maybe we can start with Roxanne on that one.
That's an interesting question, because I think the mobile channel is our only channel, and if any banks want to block us, well, I mean, they have to go through us first, because faster payment is one of the key funding channel right now. And if you say anyone want to block us, well, I think again, let's look at reality. So far, nobody has blocked us, and I think we are embracing faster payment, which is a key payment features that enable virtual bank to strive so fast. I mean, just look at us. I mean, for the past 6 months, we've accumulated over 180,000 clients. That speed and pace is unrivaled in any traditional banks. And I think the banking community, even though it's very competitive, I think we have like 1,200 branches in Hong Kong. We're well banked society, but still, I think mobile banking is a very convenient way to conduct banking service. I don't believe any traditional banks would give us that trouble, so far at least.
Thanks, Roxanne. So another question here. This comes from Soundari Mukherjee. It would be great to hear examples where virtual banks might be making a difference for specific groups of people who were previously underserved before. I'll go to Adrian for that one.
Sure. I think the benefit of virtual banks is that we can serve them anytime and anywhere, and also at at a location that they feel comfortable. I think from the data that we have observed so far, our oldest customers was 83 years old, and he managed to open an account in 5 minutes, which is very, very good, even better than me, I think. So these are the customers that they can actually, without leaving the home where they feel, and stay where they feel comfortable, and actually open an account and do banking with the mobile phone. That's one. And secondly, when we look at the data, the 24/7 benefit that Roxanne mentioned earlier actually works, because about 43% of our customers actually open the bank account outside of banking hours. About 16% of them actually open between midnight to 8 a.m. So there are customers who actually want to do banking at the time that they want, and also at the places that they feel comfortable with. These are the benefits that we observe, and this is how virtual bank can promote financial inclusion. Thank you.
Thanks. Dennis, do you have anything to add to that question?
I think financial inclusion, underserved, the definition of underserved in Hong Kong, it's super important, because when I look at the traditional businesses and the relationship with the customers in Hong Kong, I think there were some pain points. Right now, the new banks, we are trying to solve all these things. Again, we are not doing we are not bringing rocket science new products to the market. But what we are doing is, I'm going to tweak, what Roxanne said. We are coming to market with, not like, minimum viable product, but maybe minimum lovable product. Okay, so these minimum lovable products are super important, for the customers. Why? Because they love the products and services. We are fixing the problems and we are giving the time to them, back. So this is the most important thing, right? They can do 24/7. They have never done, this kind of transactions in a real time on a mobile phone in a quick manner, in a couple of minutes. I think, this is changing, market a lot.
Thanks. Okay, another question here. Are you guys planning to offer wealth management tools through your platform? I'll start with Roxanne there.
Yes, I think as I mentioned earlier, the product focus, the next phase will be both I&I, insurance, and investment. So that's a wealth management part, as we provide a better saving account interest rate. The next level of customers and users will look for an enhanced return. So that's definitely something that we're looking at. I can't give anybody a time or what, because we need to seek regulatory approvals on those. But definitely is a consideration. I think among all 8 of us will be offering that.
Okay,
So,
great.
so wait and see. Hopefully, it'll be faster than we expected.
Great. Okay, another question. This is from Adrian Lowe. Currently, virtual banks are mainly targeting mass consumers. What would be the value propositions for Hong Kong micro businesses and SMEs? Dennis?
We are focusing on retail banking in Hong Kong right now. In the future, of course, we can look at different areas like SME. SME business, we know that there are a lot of gaps and opportunities in SME business, and we know that some of other new banking players, they have already started SME services. There will be a lot of opportunities for different banks, but as Mox, we are focusing on retail banking business right now.
Okay, I think supplementing. Sorry.
Go ahead, Roxanne. Go ahead, Roxanne. Yep.
Yeah, I think SME is also part of the focus in the license. So I think all 8 of us are considering SMEs, and I think one key pain points, which is what we all started off, is account opening. Definitely, corporate account opening, be it SME or enterprises, is much more complicated. So that's one area that I think we're all thinking through to make sure we make a difference before we launch something. And we see Ping An already started with the SME banking, which is a good first. And then we'll all be looking at, on top of account opening, how else can we make sure the transaction monitoring and all the financing needs being covered efficiently and effectively.
Okay, Adrian, do you have anything to add along the SME category?
Yeah, I think my answer is in line with what Dennis was saying earlier, and also to my point earlier. How Wheeler Bank actually differentiate ourselves is to do what we do best, which is our core competency on serving our individual customers first. But as Roxanne was saying, we all will look into if the technology allows how to do the onboarding SME customers quicker, sooner, and therefore maybe this is another way that we can serve the broader community outside of the retail customers.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions here just around the topic of security, which was briefly touched on already. So I'll combine a couple here. This first question is talking about recently media reporting about wrong transactions to the Jockey Club. I'm not familiar with that one, but anyway, they ask, accuracy and security are the cornerstones of banking. How to ensure high standards in this space. And then just to add on to this, another question, virtual banking, makes banking more convenient and accessible, obviously, but can you share your views with regard to technology risk management, data privacy, anti-money laundering, other compliance checks, essentially all of the above? If you each could comment on that. Let's start with Adrian.
Sure. I think when it comes to data security, cybersecurity, that is the most important thing for Wheeler Bank and also for the broader banking industry, I think. These are the minimum requirement how we actually build trust with our customers. In terms of AML's anti-money laundering requirements, we have very strict process and procedures to make sure the customers we onboard and also the transaction they carry out on our platforms are in compliance with the regulations that the regulator in place. In terms of customer data security, we want to make sure there are strict control and there's no cross-border data transfer or any transfer of customer data without the customer's consensus. These are the minimum things that I see to maintain the trust and with not just with the customers but also with the regulator. How we operate as a bank and especially as a virtual bank, the cybersecurity side is ultimately most important for us as well.
Okay, Roxanne?
Yes, I think the case mentioned by one of our viewers is related to a traditional bank. Just wanted to make sure that that didn't happen to us, 8 of us yet, or won't. The way I look at it, technology allows us to be better, but then it falls back to the key statement that Dennis made on the talents. I mean, it's how we use technology. And those operational glitches or errors are more driven by the bank culture or the background of the staff, more than what system or what technology we apply. I mean, technology allows us to do things, but it still depends on how we're using technology. So one key thing, as I said, is how we embrace technology in every one of our staff. I mean, I think there's a stereotype that technology automates everything and everything goes autopilot. That doesn't work that way. I mean, technology is how we use them, and every procedure, every steps relies on our expertise and banking knowledge to make sure maker and checker is still there, to make sure we have the right control. I mean, we're enabled account opening in such a fast turnaround. Doesn't mean that we will skip some steps. I think both from an account opening point of view, from a lending point of view, the underwriting standard is the same. We're complying with the same SPMs. MA didn't give us any privilege or preference on loosening any controls. And we're, I think 8 of us, along with the other 160 plus licensed banks in Hong Kong, are under the same regulation. But I think what differentiates us, as Dennis and Adrian also brought to, is the people that we have in the bank. So, I mean, the aim is to have minimal operational error because we're still building the trust and the brands of virtual bank as a whole in the Hong Kong community. So I don't think we're having anything technologically more advanced, but I think we're having people that are more technologically embracing, such that we bring a much different user experience to the Hong Kong community.
Thanks, and Dennis.
I think I have nothing much to add, but when we look at banking, we are talking about 10 different risk types, and I think under this 10 risk types, we are following everything, and we are compliant with everything, right? Starting from AML to FCC, financial crime to any other operational risks, we are following, we are monitoring very closely. And to be honest, you can be a big bank, small bank, new bank, traditional bank, however you want to call it. The most important thing is, I think everybody is focusing on security and the privacy as a first thing in our lives. And on the other hand, there may be some operational errors. Even big banks, they are facing this kind of things. But the most important thing is, I think recovering very quickly and coming back and helping customers. This is the most important thing, and we are focusing on this as a first priority.
Okay, thanks. So another I'm going to combine some questions here. We have so many coming in, so they're generally along the same topic. From Edward Lau, virtual banks could operate at a relatively, they operate relatively low operating costs in theory than traditional banks, bricks and mortar banks. How could consumers and businesses benefit from these advantages to make more returns or reduce their cost of funds? And then I'll combine that from Nicholas Chan. with everything going virtual, does that mean lower transaction fees and transfers payments across borders? And then adding to that, how is this a feasible business model in your opinion, as from a bottom line perspective on your side, considering all of these things? So I'll start with Dennis on that one.
Sure. I think we have to understand that this is going to be a long-term investment for everyone coming from outside or coming to as a new player into market, because the discussion of profitability or making money, yes, every organization should think about all these things from day one, but I think we have to focus on something quite different. First, everybody here, we are trying to get the customer, bring the best customer experience, getting the right hard share instead of only focusing on market share. We are trying to do all these things. Of course, we are investing. We have invested, and we will continue to invest to this business. We didn't build these banks because we are not talking only a small fintech or one mobile app. We have been investing these things. Why? Because we will be here and we are planning to be here for the next decades. It's not a game like we are here just for a couple of years, gain customers and then do some other things. We are here for the next decades to do this. That's why we will continuously invest on this. And of course, first investment and the future operating model is a bit different. Because first investment, we built banks in Hong Kong, not only a small fintech. And being a bank and building a bank, it comes with a lot of different things that you have to build accordingly in parallel to your technology. So that's why the first investment aside, there will be a lot of things, but of course, our operating models will become more cost efficient, and we can easily say that it's going to be low cost. As a result of these low cost operations, we are talking about in our bank right now 186 people, and 186 people we are operating a big business, right? And we are gaining many customers every day. I think this is a good sign. But on the other hand, in the future, this low cost model, it will make us more agile to come to market quicker. And also, of course, it's difficult to say that we are going to be the cheapest or something. We are focusing on fair pricing all the time. But of course, this low cost, with the help of this low cost, we will share the best experience and the best value with our customers. This is the target.
Thanks, Dennis. So I'm going to go on to a different question just because we have so many coming in. But if either of you have something that you feel would be really of interest to include as I go through this, feel free to jump in. But along this, kind of along the same topic, this is from Alvin Lim. And of course, it's still early. We're not asking for any particular numbers here or anything, but just at a high level, would any of you be able to share some insight as to what you're looking at as far as key performance indicators? What you might be tracking and how you might see this evolving in the next year or so. Let's go to Adrian for that one.
Sure. I think for us, initially, obviously, the easiest thing is to measure the number of customers who are on board. And it shows the interest of how customers actually, what are the response to the bank's proposition. But more importantly for us is the stickiness of the customers. After we operate for 2 months, we actually keep an eye on these things, these statistics very clearly. For example, we look at how many customers actually use our apps, how active they go into our app to check the finances, and also how many customers actually try our products. So over 60% of our customers has tried at least 2 or more of our product or services since we launched, which means they are curious. They want to experience what we can offer, but also keep coming back and also joined the different product. For example, GoSafe. more than every customers had. I think over 40% of them had come back and joined the GoSafe minibus, which means they like the product, they find it fun, they also want to do it again. So I would say initially we'll go with customer numbers and also the engagement level, whether by product penetration or how often they use our app.
Thanks, Adrian. Okay, so another question here from Bernard Schluep. Apologies if I mispronounced that. Our Hong Kong, by the way, there's been quite a number of questions around this topic, the topic of blockchain. Are Hong Kong virtual banks already using blockchain technology, including for international payments? Are they creating their own blockchain-based systems, including digital currencies, to enable business-to-business cryptocurrency payments between their customers, etc.? Roxanne, let's go to you for that one.
Definitely an item to watch. I have to say I haven't engaged blockchain actively yet, as well as international payment and the DCEP yet, but that's something that we're looking at. First, as we said earlier, we want to make sure we have a very strong and justifiable, viable banking model for our minimum products first. Then we look into those. I think that's definitely something we have to look into, because blockchain is a big topic, but then it's how we're using it for our own banking model. I think, well, let's wait and see on those. Cryptocurrency, same thing. Digital currency, electronic payments, those are definitely items that all of us are watching, but not the primary objectives yet. Right now, it's still customer engagement, and the KPIs are the same as other traditional banks, plus customer engagement.
Okay, do Dennis or Adrian have anything different than that response? Okay.
I may add, one thing, very quickly. Blockchain as a technology, or the new currencies, new cryptocurrencies, or new currencies, it's a different thing. I think the first part is using a blockchain technology in the bank. We are using smart contracts in our core, and smart contracts means it's basically similar to same thing with blockchain mentality. And this bank is is working on this smart contract blockchain kind of the technology right now. So we built this on that this smart contracts. Cryptocurrency as a currency is a different area that we have to explore, and we have to understand the real customer need. Then I think we can look at it.
Okay, I like this question here. As far as working culture in traditional banks is a deterrent for talent in some circumstances, do virtual banks look at culture differently? If so, could you share your thoughts on culture? Adrian.
Sure. I think at WeLab Bank, we put a lot of emphasis on growth mindsets. We want to attract people with the same growth mindset to not just to go take things as it is. We want people to think outside of the box, and also think how we can actually serve our customers better, and not just following the traditional old banking ways or the traditional banking products. We put a lot of emphasis on agile because we want to respond to customers' needs and also behavior quickly. These are the things that make us different, and I think this is how also make WeLab Bank's offering and the interaction with the customers different. Thank you.
Okay, we have a few more minutes now, so I just want to throw a more practical question to you guys, because I actually don't know the answer to this at all. Can virtual banks provide traditional instruments like credit cards and debit cards? Can we withdraw cash from ATMs, and how? Roxanne.
Well, you're talking, we have two debit cards already offered in the panel today, both Mox and WeLab, and very beautiful cards. So yes, definitely, cash withdrawal is something that we're providing in Hong Kong. I think I'm catching up, I have to say, but then I'll be there too, because we found that originally we don't have a card because, we're trying to push for cashless. But I think the Hong Kong community still like cash. So I think obviously our clients, among 8 of us, would be able to draw cash from machines near you. That's one thing. I think payments, credit cards, is actually a phenomenon that virtual banks are bringing to. The two of my peers here offering debit cards, which traditionally in Hong Kong isn't a popular thing. But then I think we're changing the behavior. Both have a very beautiful debit cards, and I'm catching up. So that's where we're coming.
Okay, so in the final minute here, I would just like each of you to answer, maybe just very brief answer, elaborate a bit if you'd like, but would you want the audience or public to view you as a technology company or as a bank? Dennis.
I'm sorry to say that, we are not a technology company. We are a bank, and we are in trust business. I think, this is the most important thing. All the other CEOs here, we are all in trust business, and this is banking, and we built banks, not technology companies. But on the other hand, we are using technology totally different than the traditional businesses, and I think that's the differentiating point. But other than that, I see us as a bank.
Okay, Adrian.
I think add to Dennis, I have to jump in because this is a very interesting question. Effectively, we're a virtual bank. So we're a tech and bank. So that's how we want our audience to view us. We're a virtual bank. We're not just a bank or a fintech.
Okay, Adrian.
I don't think we are either or. I think using technology to deliver more superior banking experience. And the fact that we are a single channel bank, we can focus more on how to deliver those experience better and with more fun for Wheeler Bank.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. Well, that is unfortunately all the time we have. Thank you so much to the audience for all the questions you submitted. Obviously, this is a topic of a large interest to many people. And thank you to all of our speakers for taking the time out to share their thoughts and expertise. Dennis, Roxanne, and Adrian, thank you guys so much. And of course, thank you to Enoch for her excellent moderation earlier in the conversation. So just want to let our audience know that SCMP Research will be publishing our China FinTech Report 2020 later this month. So please be out on the lookout for that. The report will be the most comprehensive resource on China's FinTech landscape in the English language, covering payments, digital banking, wealth tech, insurtech, digital currencies, and blockchain. It covers the most significant topics in FinTech today, including Ant Group's upcoming IPO, and China's launch of a digital currency, and will provide a forward-looking outlook that can guide corporate executives, investors, and industry professionals. Visit research.scmp.com and sign up for our newsletter to get notified and receive a discount for when that report is launched. We'll also be holding our next segment in the Redefining Hong Kong series on November 12th, which will be on the topic of Hong Kong's IPO market. Please check in at redefininghk.scmp.com to stay up to date on all future announcements, including confirmed speakers for that event. And lastly, I just want to ask our audience to keep an eye out for the post-event summary email, which will include a link to the Redefining Hong Kong LinkedIn community, where you can carry on with our Redefining Hong Kong conversations. Thank you all for joining us to watch this panel. We really hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to welcoming you next time. Thanks.